Yes, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us with our Applied Imaging webinar this morning, titled Start Working Faster and Smarter, Minimize Risk, and Embrace Opportunity Through Digital Transformation.
Thank you for that. I'm Mary, as he mentioned, and I'd like to welcome you to our new normal. As you probably have already figured out, we jumped headfirst into this, and employees who are now working from home have discovered some new and interesting things out there that they're now needing to deal with. The way we had things set up in the office, the technology, all of the processes were not designed for this new environment we're working in. But the bottom line is we all need to move in the same direction. So let's talk about today's challenges. Scattered information across the organization, those bottlenecks when it comes to workflow, compliance and regulation requirements, decreased productivity, of course, communication, and the technology issues that are out there. Now, I pulled some information I thought you might find interesting. This is from the 2019 Intelligent Information Management Benchmark Report. But what's been more interesting is the stories that are coming in. Information scattered across the office, paper, on desk, in file cabinets, electronic information sitting on people's desktops, not necessarily accessible by everybody else. One fellow told me he went to the office 4 times in one day to pull paperwork. Sound familiar? And then there's that person who, which is probably true of most of the organization, is storing things in their email inbox. I knew of someone who had between 10 and 12,000 unopened emails. The philosophy was, well, they might have a virus. I don't want to open them, but if I open them, or if I delete them, even worse, it could be something I need. So the person sat on them. How would you like to find something there? So the interesting part is in this report, they said 69% of the people stored everything in their email inbox. 55% had a shared network and used that traditional folder structure. And I know you're thinking there's challenges with that. And what's interesting, the shared network in an organization worked well until we started working from home. Only 24% of the folks out there used a document management system, and the majority said they're searching in 4 different places to find information. So 46% say it's a challenge to get what they need. That's almost half their time spent doing that. And email, we know that's the least equipped to manage large volumes of your organization's information, but that's where it's been sitting up to this point. Now let's try and find that scattered information that's spread all over the place. And what's interesting is that 86% of them said they had a challenge in finding what they were looking for. You know the story. Things weren't named correctly. And they might be sitting in the wrong folder, misplaced, lost, and the story goes on and on. And what do? 83% of them recreate the document that already existed. Not only have you invested more time, you now have duplicate documents running around the office, which is not a good thing. And then there's those approval and signatures. We have a client we're currently working with. Back in early March, their process for paying invoices were this. They had over 100 plus a week that came in invoices. They would take and print out copies or take the mail copy, put it in the inbox of the person who was responsible for approving it. When they happen to wander in the office and check their mailbox, they then, at that point, could approve it and take it back to the people paying the invoice. You get 2 guesses why this isn't working in today's world when they all went remote. Exactly. It's a major problem moving paper around when people are working remote. And paper forms, we all deal with all kinds of forms out there. The most interesting question I got in the last couple of weeks came in from a school district. Do we have a scanner that kills viruses? No, I've done this 20 some years and I've not seen one of those. Why? Bottom line was they were getting ready for the homeschooling changeover and had a huge quantity, under 1,000 Chromebooks that were going out and needed a signed form to come back, and they were afraid the virus was going to come with that. I gave them a couple of suggestions, and I'll show you one of them as we move through, but one was the camera on their phone to take a screenshot of the signed document. And of course, we've got teammates now that have been furloughed who are having others now pick up the job responsibilities. So nearly 2/3 of the folks out there said it was a challenge to get approval process. And I won't go through this list, but you know the pain. You probably are experiencing it right now, trying to get things taken care of, approved, and moving through the organization. It was long before. It's probably worse now. Complicated processes. You don't get notified like you should, and on it goes from there. Now, keep in mind, these statistics were from 2019. My guess is these numbers are even higher now with our new normal, if you will. Bottlenecks in an office. I know you're thinking of that, probably that person who you can always count on to leave things sitting on their desk and not getting things moving like they should, but it can cause a lot of problems. Lost revenue, you've got problems with customer service, on top of stressed staff members who are trying to deal with all of this. And now that we've gone remote, it's even harder. Hence that organization I told you about with 100 plus invoices a week coming in. We also, no matter where you are and what you do in your organization, you're dealing with different compliance and regulations. I'm not going to go through those, but I want you to know you're not alone out there in dealing with them. If you're dealing in a world with mixed information across the office, whether it's electronic or paper, it's hard to meet these regulations and comply like you're supposed to, and then add audits in there where you're supposed to prove that you've done what you should have done. And now the GDPR on the bottom, if you are a company, and a lot of them are, dealing internationally, you now need to be concerned about protecting the privacy and personal data of European Union residents. You've got to follow their rules on top of what we have in this country that you're dealing with. And let's talk about decreased productivity. You know, it was a problem before, but I suspect it's taken a real turn for the worse right now. My favorite author is Mark Twain. He once said, if you have to do something you don't want to do, like eat a live frog, eat the frog first. The same thing is true about what you're doing in today's world. Make a list, even if you're back in that office, make a list of what you want to do. Put that thing at the top of the list you don't want to do. Eat the frog first. And one of the other hazards is now that we're home or working with skeleton crews in the offices, we're working too much. We're not taking the breaks that we need. You need to have a clear start and end time. It's too easy to walk back in at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep and take up working, and limit distractions. My favorite story was somebody I knew years ago. She worked at home and had a rule when there was a sign hanging on the doorknob of her office. The only reason her family could disrupt her was if they were bleeding, and that was it. So talk with the people you live with to talk about what's a good distraction, or better yet, how to limit those distractions. And our healthy habits, well, most of us don't have a drive time now, so we sleep later, we get up later, and we're not eating and sleeping like we should. So make sure you take breaks, and even to the point you could trick yourself into a break. If I get something done, this project done, I'll go sit in the sun on the deck. Communication challenges were always a problem, and they still are. They've probably gotten worse now because we're doing more texting, we're doing more emails, and more written communication in some form or other. And how you meant to say something is maybe not quite how it came across when you were communicating it. And better yet, if you're on the receiving end, be proactive. Speak up and say, did you really mean to say what you did in that email? This is how I took it. And technology issues. You know, it was interesting to hear the stories in early March. People with VPN, those virtual private networks. I know of large organizations who told their people to go home, and on Thursday night at 7 o'clock, for example, everybody get on the VPN. We aren't sure it can handle the total number of employees who are now going to be accessing from the outside into the organization. And I know technology is fun to embrace, some people more than others, but it's more than hardware. It's more than the laptops and tablets and smartphones. So we need to think about the apps that are out there, software, and we're going to talk about that further to give you some answers there. But first, what's in a name? You've heard me use ECM in describing the title that Jeff and I have. You've heard me say document management. The bottom line is it's like a car. We call them cars, autos, automobiles, vehicles. Same thing is true here. There's a variety of names for the very same thing. The bottom line is they're all basically the same thing, but you need to determine how you're going to access, control, and share your organization's information and keep it secure. So with that, let's talk about the 5 things we're going to head for here. Tools to connect your workforce, how to secure that data anywhere you're working from, optimizing the business process while mitigating risk, and we're going to talk about collaboration and empowering your staff. Now, cloud storage was always a big topic prior to our new shelter in. It's even more so now. I can tell you those folks who had a cloud document management system in play are functioning and moving along fine, because what happens is all files are stored securely and they're protected and controlled. Meaning, if I'm in management, I have access to everything. If I'm a support person, I may have access to just my information and maybe I don't have the right to delete. You can control by groups or by individuals what rights and what they have access to. But the bottom line is all teams are connected who are involved in decision making, and it's unified. And security, I know this was one of our questions that came up in the registration process. I would almost bet that security in the cloud is maybe better than the server sitting in your organization. I'll tell you why. The information is encrypted on the way to the cloud. It's encrypted while it's stored in the cloud. Your information remains in your own silo of information, not mixed with anybody else. And better yet, it's replicated in several server farms across the country. What I mean is there's probably one sitting, for example, on the East Coast. Another one might be in Iowa. The information shared between the two. So if there's a power grid outage on the East Coast, Iowa still got your information. So what we do by automating is we're eliminating that manual data entry. The physical moving and archiving of documents can now all be done electronically. So it helps innovation, makes your staff more efficient, and profit is higher as a result. Here are some of the areas that we see it often used in. Invoice approval, accounts payable is a big one. Contract management, employee onboarding, even tracking retention schedules for those of you that deal with that. So let's talk a little bit about how you secure that data from anywhere. My favorite is a web client. You don't need a virtual private network. You don't need to load anything special. If you can get to a web browser, Chrome, Foxfire, Edge, doesn't matter, you can get to the software program. Now, you're going to hit the front door and it's going to say, give me your login and your password before you get any further. But the beauty of this is if your family's driving you nuts, take your laptop to the car, and as long as you can get your Wi-Fi out there, you can log in right from there and work from your car if you so desire. And mobile devices are becoming our new standard. They can pretty much do everything that you can do with that web client. You can initiate a workflow, snap a picture of a document to kick off that workflow. Might be a receipt for an expense report. You can route documents, put approvals in, and even complete tasks all with your phone. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this because this has become a real important option as we work in our new normal. Let's take a look at the web client. This is a sample of a web client, and on the left side you'll see there are documents sitting in a document tray. You might have a basket or a tray on your desk where things collect for you to do. This is much the same thing here. And over here under the word store are the electronic file cabinets. Now let me tell you about Peggy here. She works for a roller coaster company called Peters Engineering. So she's in accounting, as you can see, and dealing with FOIA requests. Now, to get things into the basket, several things can happen. She can hit the import button and go out and find things already stored on her computer or on the network and just bring them in one at a time or in groups. She might scan directly into the document tray, but better yet, there are other options. We can set up watch folders from your copiers with automatic import and indexing. Let me give you an example. Olivet College does this across their campus. They have copiers set up in the departments. The staff walks up and they've been told to use a cover sheet on top of it that has the index information or ways to identify that information. Pop it in the feeder, hit the button, and off it goes into a watch folder. The software looks at it, reads that top sheet, pulls the information, and automatically stores it. If they put it upside down, it's going to drop into somebody's document tray for them to check later. But the bottom line is you can either have it automated or have it just drop into a basket automatically, but your copier is a viable device to use for scanning in. Electronic printer. Do you know that person in the office who prints something out just to scan it back in again? We can help them. What you want to do is when you hit print, you choose the electronic software printer. It can drop it into this document tray, or if it's something you get all the time, we can create a template and have it automatically indexed and stored. So you have a lot of flexibility. You'll notice on the right, we've got stamps. We can have one of these be a signature stamp if you want for somebody to use and lock it down so only that person can use it. But we can do a real basic workflow by selecting one of the stamps, and I could say forward to, and a drop down shows up and I choose a staff member and off it goes. Under annotations on the bottom, this one I see used a lot. If you need to redact or hide something on a document before you share it, you would choose that black box that you choose there, that you see there. A color pops up and it'll say what color is the document. It's white. draw a box over the top, and it's hidden. Now, these are annotations, meaning it's an overlay. The original document has not been changed. And if I wanted to print or share it as an email, as you can see up there, it shows up and it says, okay, with or without those annotations, and do you want this page only or the entire document to go? If it's email, it's automatically attached as an attachment to that. You just have to fill in the rest of the information, or the printer sends it out wherever you want it to go. And let's talk about storing those documents. You know, as Peggy works in accounting, so obviously the way that documents are being identified is going to be very different than, say, somebody in human resources or working with contracts. Here's what's been set up ahead of time, and you need to know all the cabinets and all the indexing can be customized for your needs. It can be as much or as little as you want. And what I love about this is I call it point and click indexing. You notice there's the box highlighted on the left-hand side. I just took my mouse and ran over the top of Flying Tom Deutschland, and it automatically filled in that first field and dropped down to the second one. And I just have to run my mouse over the word invoice, and it will fill that in as well. There are so many ways, short of manually keying it in, that you can do this efficiently. Now, the rule on this one is, though, it has to be a machine-created document or it won't work. It doesn't work with handwriting, folks. I know I can hear you sighing from here, but it works beautifully with point and click, and there's lots of ways to work if you're having to index a number of documents that are the same. We can show you shortcuts for that as well. Let's talk about finding what we've put out there. Now, Peggy has a number of cabinets that she can search in. She does FOIA, or Freedom of Information requests, as well. But you'll notice the bottom there, if she's not sure where she's searching, she can look through all the cabinets. Or she can just pick one and search there. And then this box pops up. Looks similar, doesn't it, to what we had for the store, except you'll notice we now can do date range searches. We can get wildcard in play if we'd like, FLY asterisk, because I'm not sure how the rest of it is spelled. Or you'll notice in this case, when she started to type, it brought a drop down and said, do you mean one of those? And what shows up is a hit list of everything for what you've searched for. And you'll notice you can tell if these are PDFs, they're whatever they happen to be. And by the way, document management software works with almost 250 different file formats, Excel, Word, CAD files, whatever you've got out there. And in this case, it showed what the index information is, so she can say, you know what, I'm really looking for the contract. I'm going to go narrow it down from there and open that up. So you have a lot of flexibility. The other thing that makes a lot of sense is what we call full text searching. And where I see this used is in minutes for board meetings, ordinances, any amount of information where you've got a lot of information that you can't index, but you need to search through. The rule, again, is machine created. I can put a word in here, like I'm going to put the word steel in, for example, because it's a roller coaster company. And what happens is it brings back a list of documents and it says, everything you see here has the word steel in it. And what's going to happen is it's going to highlight it for me when I open up the document on the right, and it's going to put a bright red under the first incident and then yellow under the remaining results. Now, keep in mind it can be a word, a phrase, a person's name, it can be wildcard. You have an incredible number of options in how you search for full text. This is an amazing option when you're looking at document management. And then Peggy's opened up the delivery note and she says, you know what, I need to see what else is stored out there in my document management software for this. So what does Peggy do? She clicks the button at the bottom that says order document, and the list on the left pops up and it says, here's everything out there related to this document. She doesn't need to go searching again. Click of a button, she's got everything. And she goes, you know what? That lease contract on the bottom is the one that I want to spend some time with. So it's real easy to search for related documents. Let's talk about version control. One of my stories on this one, I was working with a company many years ago. They had the worst folder within a folder within a folder structure I've ever seen in my life. And they also had everything done by numbers, prints all labeled by numbers. The problem with that was they never knew what the current version was and admitted several times they had manufactured things that were the wrong version of the plans. The beauty of a document management system is that you can have it either manual or automated for version control. So if I open up a Word document and change it when I go to store or hit close, it will automatically store it as the most current version back into the software. I opened it up from the software first, I should add that. At any point, I can see the history like you see it here of this particular document. And the nice part is it tells you who modified it, what date they did it. You have an audit, a tracking mechanism, but more importantly, when you do a search to bring something back, it brings back the most current version, so you don't have the problems that that manufacturing facility did. Let's talk about mobile devices. You already heard me say that you can do just about everything on a mobile device. Forms can be electronically completed and signed. We were working with a company who were taking orders in the field. They were doing that with the phones and mobile devices out there, and then when they hit submit, the order went into the company. You can review contracts, vendor support, as far as invoices being paid and approved, right down to people in the field who need to send in receipts or reports from the road can scan it in. This is a free app. It's called PaperScan. It's available out there to load onto your phone, and you heard me talk about the school district. This is one thing I recommended for them to do, and you can scan anything with it. And here's the fun part. When you open it up, it triggers automatically. You hold the phone over the document that you want to scan, and it's going to correct distortions, cut the paper edges off, and it will upload the document to wherever you want it to go. And it works beautifully, and it's free. Now at the bottom, you'll notice that you can get it free at the Apple App Store or in Google Play. It is owned by DocuWare, but you don't have to have a license to DocuWare. It can be used with any software on any phone. So here's my gift to you today, is a free app for scanning with. Let's talk about optimizing business processes. Capturing information, we've touched on that already, but as much as you can automate and import and index, the better you're going to be to avoid that manual effort of having people push paper around. So what happens? You have sped up your business process. You streamline things, and let me tell you, your staff is a lot more happy with their jobs. And email, that can be a real interesting thing in our current world. You've heard me talk about people keeping things, and we heard the statistics about how things are always stored in email, but it's difficult to have access to everybody's inbox and email to find what you need. So we'll talk about that too. And then electronic signatures. They're now legally binding for contracts and invoices. We'll spend some time with that as well. Now let's talk about capturing information. You've heard me talk about, of course, importing and scanning, that button at the top there, and all of the other things, but I wanted to share with you something called intelligent indexing. The organization I talked about, they had 100 plus invoices coming in a week. They looked at me and said, yeah, well, that's good, but they're all different. What do we do? What we recommended is they drop it into a special document tray that's being watched. It takes that invoice, takes it to the cloud. The cloud goes, oh, I've seen you before. I know what index information that I need to pull for you, and I'll send it back down to your document tray. If it's green with a box in the corner like you see here, it means I pulled everything. If it's yellow, I got some of it. I need your help. I'll show you where I need the help and where I'm questioning things. Red means that it has never been seen before. And you have, what you do in that case is you take your mouse and run it over the areas on that document to help it learn where that information is. So the next time it goes up, it may be yellow when it comes back, and by the third time it's green. This works beautifully for those things that don't have any uniformity to them at all. And it can be either included free with a cloud, or it can be picked up as a subscription very, very inexpensively. Let's talk about email storage, because we already heard 68% of the people are storing everything in their email inbox. Here's how you change that. You put buttons on your Outlook, and they can store it directly into the software. And they have a choice. Now, Peggy has a choice of several things here. If it's things not related to the accounting part of the world, she could either take a copy of that email and leave a copy here and store the copy in the software. If she was working in HR, it might be an employee's, and a certain bit of information related to that would come up, and on it goes down the line. So she can copy, move, or maybe just move an attachment if that's the only thing that's important. When she hits the store button on the left, what pops up is the index fields that you see here. And it will pull everything that it can from there. You may have to help it the first time. The next time an email comes in, it will remember. And you hit the store button, and off it goes. Let's say you're in Outlook and you need to find something stored in the software. You can search right from Outlook just by putting in what you're looking for here. Is it same sender, attachment? Hit quick search, and it brings back a result list. Now, I know a lot of people deal with other software out there, third-party software, and this is one of my absolute favorites. What we've done is we took a snapshot of, in this case, the accounting software that Peggy uses, and we put 3 buttons that sit on the top. Now, IT people don't get crazy here, because what's going to happen is we're going to do a screen scrape of the information. So we said, whenever you see something here under that first and last name for a contact, I'm going to hit the contact button and bring me back results for everything under that person's name stored in my software, my document management software. So you don't need to close out one to get into the other. You can have any number of buttons. As you can see here, we've got invoice in, out, and the contact button. And it's one license that covers any number of third-party softwares, or it comes free with the cloud. But this is a great way to take advantage of third-party software, because we found out there oftentimes if you have other software, it's probably not doing everything that you want it to do, or it does one thing really well but not the rest. And so you can marry the two together and have them play very, very well together. Let's talk about digital signatures. They're now legally binding, and they meet current security requirements. The beauty of it is a lot of the document software out there, management software, works with a number of external signature providers like Validated ID, DocuSign, and it can be seamlessly put into a workflow. So as it moves through the workflow, people can add those digital signatures legally. And then you can also put levels of security on there as to who can use it, how secure you want to make it. That all can be done within the software itself and also those providers that have this software. Let's talk about collaboration. We're going to try and stop people from pushing paper around the office. And when we do that and move to more of a technical world, you now have improved your processes, made them faster, and have effective decision making. It's interesting. I've been doing this 20 plus years. Early on, it used to be store and retrieve. What's been more interesting as we moved along over the last 5 years or more is workflow and forms. Workflow is how things are moving through your office. You heard me talk about the paper trail that was moving through the one organization. And what happens is you can now make that digital. In their case, take that invoice, scan it in, goes to intelligent indexing, and automatically it can be sent off into the workflow or sent to somebody who then decides who that invoice needs to go to, and it moves through the workflow. It can be either sent as an email link or a to-do list called task updates, but at any point along the line, management can see what's been completed, what needs to be done, and even to the point of putting a time restriction on it. This invoice has to be looked at in the next 24 hours. If it hasn't, I want you to remind that person and notify me as a management person. And forms. We all use all kinds of forms. Sometimes they're electronic. I've seen all kinds of things out there looking at websites from PDF fillable forms that then have to be printed out and sent back to any number of things. So let's take a look first at task list and workflow. As Peggy here on the top left has a list of things that need to be done. And if I said to you, can you tell me what she needs to do? You can think and say, well, yes, the yellow, and there's numbers in the yellow, so it tells her how many of those tasks exist in each one. Now, if we wanted to, we could send an email notification to somebody and say, hey, you've got a task to complete, and put a link in the email, and they could click on that link and it would open up the document that need to be approved. In Peggy's case, as you'll see here in the middle, she assigns cost centers to the invoices, pays invoices as well, but she also at any time, because she's in management, has the option to look at everything out there and monitor the team. So at any point she knows what's been done, what needs to be completed, or who's the bottleneck that we've talked about earlier. In her case down below, when she opens up that first invoice, she assigns a cost center with that button on the left. Now, it might be approve or reject, and that you could put 2 buttons over there for that. If it was reject, you might want to have them tell you why they rejected it. But workflow, this is a more advanced form of it. You heard me talk about stamps before. This takes it even a step further, even to the point that she can take this invoice and say, it's a phone invoice. I need to split it between 2 departments, and she can do that right here before she hits confirm and sends it into the workflow. And forms are one of my favorites. You can create forms so easily in document management software. You can even put your an overlay over the top to make it look like a form you've always used, but in the back end, it's filling out certain things. You can even make the form dynamic, meaning you'll notice Social Security is here. I can require that field to be filled out. When they hit submit, if it's not filled out, it won't let them submit the form. And these can be used for everything. This happens to be onboarding for employees along the line, but it could be used for anything. You heard me talk about the company taking orders in the field. Anywhere you've got forms, this can come into play. But one of the other nice things is when they hit submit, the boxes that have been filled out will automatically complete the index information. Could start a workflow if you wanted that. More importantly, it can also fill out other forms. So in this case, the employee has been hired. They were asked to fill out this information sheet, and by hitting submit, the W-4 was already completed and stored, the emergency contact form, and the I-9. And if you looked at those, you'd have his signature on there. You'd have all the information he supplied in that form already completed, and it would have kicked off the next step in the process. So let your imagination run when it comes to forms. It's so much easier, and there's so much that can be done in today's world with forms to make your life easier. So let's talk about empowering employees. You know, we've stopped them from pushing paper now, so their productivity is going to go up. They're obviously going to be a lot happier because they're not struggling, hunting and trying to find what they need to find to get the job done out there, because you've given them the tools they need to be successful, whether it's working in the office or working remotely from home. They're given what they need. So let's do a recap real quick here. These are for remote workers or any workers who are in or out of the office. You have secure access to the electronic file cabinets anywhere in the world, whether it's in the driveway, in your car, or any place, whether you're sitting in your office. Electronic forms can now be completed and submitted online. Workflow that runs your organization can be done with legally approved electronic signatures, and things are moving. And you can cover for staff who's missing, out sick, or maybe have been furloughed. But the bottom line is you can future-proof your organization. We found that that's probably going to be the critical thing right now. Everyone has discovered by going remote, or part of your workforce going remote, that there are some challenges out there. And you have figured out what those are. The question is, what are you going to do to fix those? Because we're hearing rumblings that we may be in this for the long haul, or it's going to have a resurgence in the fall. No matter what happens, you need to future-proof your organization. And a little advertisement for Applied Imaging. What I love the best about our company is we don't offer just one software solution. We offer a variety of solutions. So it's not one size must fit all your needs, or one software in this case. We do a discovery call with you, figure out what your needs are, what do you want to do, where do you want to start, and then with your help decide what software offers you the best solution for what you want to achieve. Secondly, you see the name of Canon there. We offer Canon scanners, and I can tell you that's been an interesting part of what we're doing right now, because when people moved home, the copiers they couldn't go home with them. So consequently, we're getting calls for, can we have scanners at home? Yes, we have them shipped direct. We remote train, install, everything's ready to move. And a variety of solutions. Today we're kind of talking about general business, but no, we can work in any facet of your business. And we have tomorrow a webinar at this time at 11:30 for human resources for any of you who are in HR. It's going to be completely different. That's at 11:30. Check our website for that one. And coming up at the end of the month is legal on May 27th. But the bottom line is we've got everything to fit your needs along the way. So that said, we've got your back in a lot of other areas you may not even be aware of. I know you know us for the copiers and that sort of thing. Did you know we have ShredHub, a division of our company that can come in and take care of those documents that have hit the end of the life cycle that need to be destroyed? In fact, we even have secure bags we can drop off at your home right now for you to fill. We can either pick them up or you can drop them back at one of our offices, because we are a vital business. We're still functioning very effectively out there right now. Right over to PrintSmart, you see that we can manage your printers for you, document management we've talked about, and NetSmart. We can help you with your network, your IT issues. We've got the staff to back you up in these times and the help to provide. And of course, Backfile Conversion. Let's talk about Backfile. We have a division that takes care of this, and I can promise you, now that you're working in this new world, Whatever was there is still there and will be a problem when you get back. And if anything, maybe that paper pile has grown a little bit. So let's talk about a couple of things you need to know. First of all, there is a special state contract pricing in effect. If you are a nonprofit or a government municipality of some sort, you can take advantage of that. For everyone, there's financing available, because that used to be the challenge in the past. My back file was so large that when you saw the proposal, you had sticker shock. Not anymore. We can finance that. And if you don't have the staff, we can even provide the staff. But let's talk about methods of backfile conversion as we look at that backfile. You can do a complete conversion. Here's my recommendation. Start with today and go day forward and inch back into 2019, 2018. Do not start at 1905. If you do, you'll never catch that rabbit trying to catch up. Odds are the things that you need the most are probably in 2019 and 2018. Day forward is, we're going to start day forward moving into the new and active things and let the backfile just disappear as the retention schedules happen. You may have some vital records that need to be pulled from there. And then the final method is scan on demand. Best example I can give of that is the doctor's office. You haven't been there for 10 years. You show up and they have to pull your hard copy paper file out. They now scan it into the system, and you're now part of their document management software solution. So scan on demand, you pull it as it comes up, and you go from there. So Jeff, I'm going to turn this over to you because I'm sure everybody is thinking, well, this is all great and fine, but where do we start? So Jeff, you want to tell them where we start, please?
Sure. We are more than happy to engage with you. Obviously, we prefer to come and visit you in person. However, these days we are working pretty effectively remotely. We want to review your needs with you and start with your greatest areas of pain. We want to understand what needs to be stored, whether that be hard copy, electronic, email, or even backfile documents. We want to talk to you about retention schedules. In some cases, there are published retention schedules out there for some of the government type entities. I know there's one for education as well. In other cases, we're just going to use best practices. Who needs access and how often? These are some of the things that we'll need to understand. And secure consultation and an estimate for you. You're going to be surprised at just how low cost and how fast a solution can be deployed.